Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kit Kramer, and I'm the president and CEO of the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce. We are so happy you're with us on this experiment that we're doing, a virtual intercity visit. If you've ever been on an intercity visit, you know how much you can learn and the connections you make. Excuse me. And we wanted to bring a small piece of that. This has been a heck of a year, and there have been so many things that we're interested in learning about in terms of best practices that we thought this virtual intercity visit might be the best approach to take. We've got three wonderful speakers for you today. From Chattanooga, Barry White with the Chattanooga Tourism Company. He is president and CEO. From Lexington, Mary Quinn Raymer of Visit Lex, and she is the president. And from Asheville, Vic Isley of Explore Asheville, the president and CEO. The format for today, the first half of the meeting, we're going to allow each of these experts to talk about their markets, the specific types of issues they face, and what's going on in the markets right now. And the second half of our meeting will be devoted to your questions and their answers. So the chat is available to you this entire time. Please put your questions in the chat and we will address them after all three speakers have spoken. We're going to start with Barry. It's interesting to have had all these Zoom meetings and to now have the same kinds of technology issues that we were facing at the beginning. Hopefully that will not be apparent to you as our guest. Barry White joined the Chattanooga Tourism Company as the president and chief executive officer during the spring of 2018, bringing more than 29 years of leadership expertise in the travel and hospitality industry. He is a certified destination management executive by Destinations International and holds an Institute of Organizational Management certification by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He has been recognized with multiple tourism leadership awards, the Georgia Governor's Award for Creative Excellence, and Southeast Tourism Society's Shining Example Award. Prior to Chattanooga, Barry spent 24 years as president and CEO of the Augusta, Georgia Convention and Visitors Bureau and led them through major growth by transitioning the CVB from a public entity to a private nonprofit corporation. He is a native of Tennessee, graduated from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. I'm very sorry to hear that, Barry. I'm a Florida Gator. And Barry enjoys traveling, snow skiing, adventure motorcycling, and the occasional sip of whiskey, don't we all? Barry, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kit. Really a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be engaged in this intercity visit, virtual intercity visit, and with two of my distinguished colleagues as well speaking. So I will try to kick it off, and let me get the technology up and running here if we can. Let's see if we can. So hopefully we look okay there. If I can get a confirmation from Kit or someone.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, just so a little bit about Chattanooga. Just wanted to share, if you haven't been here, you need to come. Of course, I've got to get that out of the way. But we're a population about 375,000 people, and we're on the banks of the Tennessee River, surrounded by ridges and mountains. Outdoor recreation is really what we're about. Water sports, hiking, biking, mountain climbing, bouldering, and the South's premier hang gliding flight park. So if you want to do that, you can come and experience that right here in Chattanooga. Our base is really the Lookout Mountain attractions, those legacy attractions that have been staples here for 90 to 125 years, and they include Rock City, Ruby Falls, and the Incline Railway. Then we layer on our most visited attraction, which is a Tennessee Aquarium, and others like our national military parks and our rich Civil War history. So we are a family destination. We're primarily a drive market with the core targets being Atlanta and Birmingham and Huntsville, and I'm sure we share some of those with Asheville and Lexington. But we were also asked to just kind of share how our residents view tourism. And tourism is a significant part of our economy, and I think the residents really do recognize tourism locally, but they don't always connect the economic and social benefits of to the community. So that's something I think a lot of destinations are faced with, but they're generally very supportive of tourism. Of course, 2019 was our benchmark year. 1 in 9 jobs in Chattanooga and Hamilton County are in the travel and hospitality industry. And every day visitors spend about $3.2 million in Hamilton County. Last spring, we lost more than 10,000 jobs, 1 in 3, and visitor spending plummeted by 80% at the heat of the downturn. And of course, residents lost the ability to enjoy our local culture and dining and events and activities. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on the shutdown, really kind of move to post-shutdown.
Hey, Barry, are you advancing slides?
I hope so.
You are not, according to us. So I just wanted to interrupt. And
there we go.
There we go.
Okay, you got to have a train in Chattanooga.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kit. Branding and creative, kind of post-shutdown, it's interesting. We had gone through an entire branding research in 2019, and we found ourselves coming out of the shutdown. We recovered about 85% of the jobs lost. We did perform in 2020. Just to let you know, we performed a little bit better than planned. But we also wanted to get our brand out there. So during the shutdown, we worked on honing and working on new creative and getting everything put together to launch that brand, which we did. And we wanted to be ready to go when the economy opened back up. So our research kind of showed us a lot about our differentiating assets, really centered around natural and created assets that I shared some of those with you earlier, but also around our community and our business attitude. So it's really about, again, our residents are extremely proud of our community. We're kind of a city of part-time techies and part-time climbing guides and rugged individualists, and we value hard work and pride ourselves on, kind of a bootstrap kind of outlook on life and liberty in the pursuit. Friendly, but not pushy. We do talk with a bit of a twang occasionally when we walk with a bit of a swagger, but we love our natural assets. And if you come visit us, we will gladly show you around and possibly even join you. And if we compete in anything, we'll buy you the first round. But if you win, so if I win, we'll happily let you buy. So you have this attitude, kind of really makes us who we are. And we continued again that brand launch, and we kind of pushed this out. And I want to share just a real quick spot. It's a 30-second commercial that talks about the risk taker and hopefully captures some of that. So I just wanted to share that with you. And this is what we started pushing out in the summer of 2020. We'll see how this works.
If your tamer passions include climbing, hang gliding, and river surfing, some may call you a hair-on-fire risk taker. We'd say, nah. They might not realize you're also a nonconformist, craft curator, history buff, art-loving experience collector. But ask a Chattanoogan, we just call you one of us. If you're
Sorry about that. So anyway, we were focusing on leisure last year, and we couldn't host groups, meetings, conventions, sporting events, and we focused nearly every single one of our efforts on leisure visitors. Our budget was affected, like all of us, affected by the pandemic, but every single line item in our budget was was cut, reduced, except for one, and that was our leisure advertising budget. We were all in on leisure advertising. We didn't qualify for first round PPP, but we were fortunate to receive some CARES Act funding from the state, which we put 100% of that into our fall campaign last year. And the last 2 quarters of 2020, we actually invested more in leisure advertising during that period than we ever have. And we think it paid off. We kept the safety focus going as well. According to research, I think we all, at least Vic and Mary we have access to, it said that the destinations that have clear safety and health message is one of the most important factors when planning travel. So we kept that in tune and continued that message. We created safety commercial videos for leisure that ran locally because we wanted to make sure that our community was ingrained and the visitors felt safe, and we instilled confidence in their visits, and we set their expectations for safety when they came here. Our communities remained vigilant in following those health and safety protocols, and we'll continue to promote it until those vaccines reach critical mass. But I did want to run just a real quick, I think I can get to this next one. This is a 15 or 30-second spot.
Chattanooga, we've got this. This is our home. Let's stay focused on keeping it safe, a place we can all feel comfortable inviting our friends and family to visit. That means wearing a mask when you are out enjoying your favorite spots around town, washing your hands for 20 seconds, considering getting a vaccine when it's your turn, and continuing to practice social distancing. We need your help for just a little while longer. We've got this.
Again, just a little example. We really focused heavily on that, both internally and out and externally. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this, since I think that concludes all of our videos. But so how do we compare? What does 2020 look like? What's our outlook, and how do we actually do with this? So the state of Tennessee performed, you look at different metrics, but the state of Tennessee performed better than the nation. I would expect also North Carolina and Kentucky did as well, but Tennessee did perform better than the nation. And we look at our state Tennessee Department of Revenue and leisure and hospitality businesses. They were down about 16% statewide and only 11% in Hamilton County. And the national, I think, was more in the 25 to 30%, I believe. So we outperformed the state average. We also fared better than the nation, and we fared better in Chattanooga than the 3 largest cities in Tennessee, those being Memphis, Nashville, and Knoxville. The leader in Tennessee were our friends up in Sevier County around the Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge area. They led the state in 2020. And they've got a tremendous amount of cabin rentals and outdoor recreation, obviously with the national park there. So again, we did better than most, and we were extremely pleased with that. What we're seeing right now is that recovery is happening much faster than we anticipated. If we look at demand, so hotel demand from Smith Travel Research, we're only down about 4% compared to 19 right now. We're up 7% to the last year, but we're down 4% to 19. So again, kind of the projections, 9 months ago was that tourism would not fully recover until 2023. We think it's going to be a little bit faster than that. Demand right now in April is pacing about 16% over 2019, and it's up 11% compared to 2019. So April this year is up 11% in demand. And we've also seen, we expect that to continue. Our short-term vacation rentals, if I know it's pretty strong for a couple of us, but it only represents really about 7% of our room inventory, but that too is also pacing around 25% up, and they've fared better than previous years last year. So pretty interesting to see that. But right now, our April visitation was higher than April of 2019, which is pretty amazing. We're also starting to see, group meetings and conventions business start to come back, but that's going to take a little bit longer. We did just host about 1,800 people in town for a cycling event on Saturday, which was really our kind of where we really felt like we were kind of getting back to normal. Our major attractions were operating about 50%. They're starting to open up a little bit more now, and we anticipate, we're getting ready to announce a big Ironman event, which is scheduled for May the 23rd, and it'll bring about 9,000 people to town. So we're really starting to see those large groups starting to come back, and we have a lot on the books for really kind of the late summer, early fall, but very exciting to see that. And I think it's going to really happen a lot faster than we anticipated. So that in a nutshell is kind of past, present, and current, or current and future a little bit. The biggest challenges, I think, and this is around all over the Southeast and probably the country, but workforce. We're ready to open up. I don't know that people are 100% ready to go back to work. So workforce in the hospitality industry is extremely challenging right now. We have hosted a career page on our website and just released letting everybody in the hospitality industry post their job openings on our website, and we're doing a little outreach to try to bring some attention to that. We did have a mask mandate in the county, which lifted roughly a week ago, and but a lot of our attractions are maintaining mask mandates through the first part of June, so through the holiday. We have about 27% of people vaccinated in Hamilton County. So, we're looking for that to increase. So that's a bit of a challenge as we start to reopen, but we hope that more people will become vaccinated. And then again, the main challenge is workforce right now. That's the immediate need, and that's what we're trying to help with locally. That's a snapshot. Again, I appreciate the opportunity, and I will stop sharing my screen if I haven't already. And
you already did. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that. It's going to be interesting to see the things that are similar and the things that are different in the various communities. Next up, we have Mary Quinn Raymer of Lexington, and Mary Quinn is president of Visit Lex, where she oversees all administrative, marketing, and convention activities for the destination organization. She brings 20 years of tourism, marketing, communications, and event planning experience to Visit Lex. Prior to becoming president, Mary Quinn spent 7 years as the vice president of marketing at the organization. In addition, she is active with numerous tourism-related organizations, including membership on the Kentucky Horse Park Commission and the boards of the Kentucky Travel Industry Association, Horse Country Incorporated, Rural Land Management Board, Sister Cities, Equestrian Events International, Lex Arts, and McDowell House Museum. She's also a member of the Breeders' Cup 2020 Host Committee. She is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Center College, and in 2008, she received the Distinguished Young Alumna Award for the institution. Mary Quinn, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with us. Tell us what's going on in your community.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and certainly a pleasure to be alongside Barry and Vic today, two outstanding colleagues of mine representing two of my favorite cities. And on behalf of Commerce Lexington, as Kit mentioned at the beginning, these leadership trips and collaborations among cities are so very valuable. Commerce Lexington has been doing leadership trips, I think, for 75 plus years. So we are big fans here in Lexington of the opportunity to get with colleagues around the country and talk about best practices. I'm just going to talk briefly about the city of Lexington before I talk a little bit about the impact of COVID on our community and certainly on our destination. So I'm going to share my screen here real quickly. Hopefully we'll get all this going. There we go. Lexington is located in the heart of central Kentucky and serves as the hub for finance, education, retail, healthcare, service, industries, manufacturing, construction, and of course, my favorite, hospitality, really serving as the hub for both central and eastern Kentucky. We're a community of about 300,000 in population, and we're home to several Fortune 500 companies, some that you might recognize, Tempur-Sealy, Valvoline, Toyota, and Lexmark. And of course, we're home to the University of Kentucky. So I have to have the obligatory Go Cats in here. Notably, as you might have picked up in the introduction, we are best known as horse capital of the world. And that is given that Lexington serves as the epicenter of the global thoroughbred industry. Central Kentucky is home to more than 450 thoroughbred farms. You can see some of our beloved four-legged celebrities there in that picture. And as a frame of reference, more than $600 million was spent at the Keeneland Thoroughbred auction sales in 2019. The state's other signature industry is bourbon, which means big business for tourism, as you might imagine. And I am obliged to say that 95% of the world's supply of bourbon is produced right here in the state of Kentucky. And we have more than 50 distilleries located in central Kentucky. I might also add that if you're drinking bourbon that was made outside of the state, then it was probably counterfeit and not worth drinking. In addition to the University of Kentucky, we're also home to more than a dozen regional universities, colleges, and technical schools that are located within 40 miles of our downtown. And we actually serve more than 70,000 higher education students annually here in the area. So a big part of what we do. There is no doubt that the pandemic was very tough for the hospitality industry here in Lexington. Despite all that, we've actually been on a roll lately with some accolades. You might notice up in the top corner of the picture, Travel and Leisure's Best Places to Travel in 2021. That was a bright spot for us. And I'm going to share a video that will hopefully give you a sense of what we've got going on here in Lexington and entice you to visit. So stand by. So hopefully that gets you excited about a trip. As you could tell from the footage, lots of horses, plenty of bourbon, and lots of beautiful outdoor spaces. I think that's something that Chattanooga and Asheville and Lexington all share. We are supremely blessed with the wonderful natural resources and the scenic beauty that our regions offer. So I just wanted to talk a bit about tourism prior to the pandemic and then give a brief update on what we saw during the pandemic. Obviously, the hospitality industry is a vibrant part of Lexington's economy. Prior to COVID, we had 8,000 hotel rooms in the city and employed about 12,000 folks in various jobs across the industry. No doubt, the pandemic had a devastating impact on our industry and specifically for those of us at Visit Lex. Thankfully, as it looks like things are officially and finally reopening, none of our hotels were permanently shuttered, and we actually have some new hotel rooms in the pipeline. And our hospitality partners are working to bring as many of those hospitality employees back to work. As Barry mentioned, workforce is a major issue, not just in our communities, but really across this country. And so we are hoping that we can meet the pent-up demand with enough people in these positions in the months ahead. Visit Lex is actually exclusively funded by the transient tax that we collect on overnight stays in our city. For us, thankfully, it does include short-term rentals, which we have a fair share of here in Lexington. And so therefore, when occupancy dried up last spring, so did Visit Lex's revenue. So this is just a quick look at what we experienced here at Visit Lex. This is not certainly representative of all of the cancellations across the city, but we had 242 of our meetings and events canceled. That represented 90,000 room nights that Visit Lex was responsible for that did not materialize. And obviously that translated into a significant amount of lost revenue, approximately 31 million. I can tell you that from the beginning of March 2020 through March 31st, 2021, our hotels across the community lost $120 million in revenue. So I was just on a news segment last night, and I was saying that the statistics for money lost in this last year are staggering. We have some directional data from Smith Travel for April of 2021, and I'm pleased to say that things are looking on the up and up. As you can tell from 2020, those figures there in the red, our occupancy was at an all-time low last April, coming in at 16%, and we expect to finish probably around 60% for April of 2021. We also are glad to see that our average daily rate in hotels is going back up in the right direction. Last April, again, an all-time low. And we hope to come in at around $90 for ADR in this closing out this April. So I'm pleased to say also in our visitor center, we have a wonderful visitor center located in the heart of downtown. And just in the last month, we've seen an 81% increase in foot traffic through our doors. So for us, we believe that has a lot to do with the fact that people are back out and traveling, and we are certainly thrilled to see them. I just wanted to mention that Visit Lex is a quasi-governmental entity. And so as such, there's been very little in terms of relief money that we've been able to take advantage of. With a great effort on behalf of several quasi-governmental DMOs, we were finally deemed eligible for the PPP program at the end of calendar year 2020. Visit Lex has not only had one draw, but two draws on the PPP program. It's been a lifeline for our organization, and we're extremely grateful of that eligibility status. Of course, we are all paying very close attention to the guidance that's due to come out next week from the federal government regarding the American Relief Plan money, and working currently with city, state, and state officials on how those dollars will be allocated in hopes that we can also be on the receiving end of those funds. And finally, I would just mention we do have our first EDA application in the works. This is a new pot of money for us. But we are working in tandem with a couple of other partners in hopes that we might be on the receiving end of that fund. The next slide, I just wanted to share a couple of examples of how our marketing pivoted. If you read the headlines, you can see how we tried to resonate with what was happening in real time last year. Obviously, we've had so many fails when it comes to Zoom and losing our signal. And so we had some fun play on words with that. Finally, a stable connection. You can see where we highlighted outdoors because we knew that people were more comfortable traveling outdoors last summer and fall. And then of course, with our bourbon, it's time to unplug. You've got the lovely amber liquid gushing out of the bourbon barrel in that pic. Down in the bottom right, you'll notice our newest campaign, which we just launched, which is the post-vaccine postcard campaign. We know that visiting friends and family is a major driver of travel. And so we thought there'd be no better way than to engage our locals and ask them to help us invite folks back to visit. So family, friends, anyone that you want to drop a postcard to, we're making them available throughout the community. We're actually taking care of the postage and getting them in the mail. We're just leveraging the locals and the passion that they feel about the city and welcoming folks back to our community. As Barry mentioned, we did spend a lot of time in our marketing messages last fall talking about safety and providing all kinds of assurances that no matter where you were in the travel spectrum here in this community, we were taking your health and your safety as our top priority. And also at the very end of calendar year 20, we launched a Lexington 2021 campaign, which was focused again on locals, really encouraging people to step up and support our hospitality related businesses during the winter. We knew going into the winter it was going to be very difficult for us to, those businesses were not going to have as much traffic as they needed. And so we wanted to encourage locals to get out and really support our partners. So I think you'll see a common theme through a lot of tourism organizations over this last year, and that is that very close working relationship with the local community and really doing all we can to lift each other up. I can tell you that as we head into the summer months, we are looking to expand our marketing reach back to our target markets, and we're very excited about that. We know that there's tons of pent-up demand, with 86% of people polled saying that they have a trip planned within the next 6 months. We're going to be back in our traditional markets. They're very good feeder markets for Lexington, and it includes Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Chicago. And so we are really hoping to see a nice pivot in the activity. I can just tell you, even during the month of April, we saw a lot of renewed activity in our downtown and visitors in from all over. So it's feeling like we really are getting back to normal, and we want to do everything we can to capitalize on that. Also looking forward, we are very excited that in the first quarter of next year, we will be cutting the ribbon on a brand new convention center, the Central Bank Center, which is located in the heart of downtown. It is a campus that not only provides meeting and convention space, but also serves as the home to Rupp Arena, which is where the University of Kentucky basketball team plays. Really outstanding design. I'm very excited about what this space is going to do for us. We will have 100,000 square feet of contiguous exhibit space, about 25,000 square feet of ballroom, and about 30,000 square feet of breakout space. So a major upgrade for us in what we're able to do and what we're able to recruit to town on the meeting and convention side, and anticipating our first big group to actually meet there this summer at the end of June. We're hosting about 2,000 people. This will by far be the largest group that we've had in market since the early days of 2020. And we're looking, as we open this brand new center, to really focus on the market segments that we know connect and resonate here with what is happening in our community, inclusive of healthcare, ag tech, high tech, environmental, corporate, and STEM related businesses. I will say that our pace for 2022 is good. We maybe like for it to be a little bit better, but there's been quite a bit of shuffling in the meeting space as a result of the pandemic. But 2023 and beyond, we look to be very much on target with pace, and look to fill the center up with all kinds of fantastic meetings and events. We would certainly love to host you. All you need to do is reach out to me. And in closing, I would just say that as we look toward accelerating this recovery phase that we're in, we are going to continue to double down on securing relief funds, not just for Visit Lex, but on behalf of our partners. We're obviously working on this workforce shortage issue and what we can do to put people back into these jobs. I think advocacy will forevermore be at the top of my list of responsibilities, not only at the local level, but also at the state and federal level. And most importantly, we want to continue offering our distinct brand of world-class hospitality here in Lexington. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kick it back over to Kat.
Thank you, Mary Quinn. I want you to know I was talking about all of our panelists with a group of my volunteers on Monday, and we were drinking Basil Hayden, which, according to you, would be real.
It's real. It's real, and it's delicious.
Yes, it is. You have to be careful about that. I've been advocating for a 3-state kind of liquor swap. We've got moonshine here. We've got plenty of beer as well. But Vic will tell you more about all of those types of things. Thanks, Mary Quinn. Next up is Vic Isley, who is the president and CEO of Explore Asheville and the Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority. She believes in the power of travel, the emotional reward people get through exploring new places, and the economic benefits communities generate through the process. She has been recognized as one of Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International's top 25 minds in hospitality and travel sales marketing for being an innovative marketing executive. Over her 25-year history and career, she has represented destinations including the island of Bermuda, Washington, D.C., Tampa Bay, Florida, and Durham, North Carolina. Solidifying her dedication to place marketing, she was Chief Operating Officer for what is now Destination International, the world's largest destination marketing trade organization, and represents 600 organizations worldwide. She also operated as the executive director of its foundation. Vic is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, a proud Carolina girl, passionate traveler, foodie, music lover, and farmer's daughter. Welcome, Vic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kit. All of that, and I still can't work Zoom after a year. So hopefully my computer's gremlins are gone and we will have a successful exchange here. But really appreciate my partners in crime, Barry and Mary Quinn as well. And Kit, thanks for including me. So with all of that said, I am going to attempt to share my screen. So let's see how well I do there. How are we doing?
I need to learn to stop muting before I answer that question. You're fine. We can see it. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, I'm here to talk to you about the power of travel for community. And as Kit said, I'm just so pleased to be here in Asheville and in my home state of North Carolina. You know,
Vic, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment and tell you that we can see your the next slide. We can see your presentation notes, not the actual presentation screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to fix that right now.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit like inside baseball for this one. I apologize for that, but that's what one of the things we were trying to fix earlier.
We'll be happy to see those notes. You have at it.
You can test. Now I'll definitely, I ad lib all the time anyway, so now it's going to be there. So I thought I'd share with you where Asheville's been. And, you know, over the course of my career, I've definitely followed the success of Asheville as a tourism community. And back in 2019, Tourism Economics, you know, measured the value of visitors to Buncombe County and the $2.2 billion that were spent locally with businesses here. But tourism is just one piece of the economy. And at that time, it was just over 6% of Buncombe County's GDP. But as Kit showed in my intro, is that what I love about travel and why I've been in this line of work for all of my adult career is the personal connections and the human element of travel. And so that's one of the things that we've really been talking about here in Asheville as we build back tourism, is that tourism has been a part of the quality of life here for our residents as well as our visitors. And the number and array and depth of restaurants that we have here, outdoor facilities and experiences are really a result of having a really healthy visitor community as well as a resident population. The other thing is that tourism can generate real jobs. You know, when I was in school at Chapel Hill, I never even knew my job existed. And we have Americo here with Biltmore Farms Hotels, who at the start of his career, he was just looking for a regular job where he could help his mom pay some bills. And that's a good son, I think. But that job turned into a career and helped build a family and a way of life and a house purchase. And I think that really is a testament to how travel can be transformational in a person's life. And then we have Charlie and Sunil here from Sovereign Remedies and Patchwork Urban Farms. And they've really built their business on the balance between visitors and locals and serving both of those audiences. And in the way of doing that is building both of their businesses. But the benefits of visitor spending is distributed across many categories here. And while 100% of the marketing for Asheville and Buncombe County comes from an occupancy tax that is paid by hotels, vacation rentals, as well as bed and breakfasts, the benefits are far and wide. Here in Asheville, food and beverage, no surprise with the quality of restaurants and beverage outlets, as Kit was alluding to earlier, $610 million. Lodging is $609 million in spending by visitors. Retail is $468 million. Certainly our recreation and entertainment and our experience outfitters is benefit by $300 million in spending. And our transport partners, $255 million. But here in Asheville in particular, it's really heartening to see the circular economy, where so many of our restaurants, chefs, and folks in the food and beverage world are buying local from farmers, buying from local purveyors. And so those dollars are circulating throughout our community longer. And 70 to 80% of our lodging facilities, our hotels, are owned by local residents. And that means, again, that there's not as much leakage here as I've witnessed in other communities that I've been in. And that means that there's not REITs that own hotel properties here. It's not Marriott, where the profits are going to Bethesda, Maryland. They're staying right here in our community. So 75% of the occupancy tax collected is mandated by state legislation to be invested in marketing our community. And currently 25% of the occupancy tax funds are dedicated towards a tourism product development fund. And over the years, 39 community projects have benefited from $44 million in spending over the years. And those are wide-ranging community projects like the YMI Cultural Center downtown, to the Performing Arts Center, which we're just working with on an ionization air purification system to get performing arts back into facilities and residents and visitors back in to watch those performances. And also, sports facilities like Inca Center ball fields or the John B. Lewis Soccer Complex. One of those projects that just had its virtual ribbon cutting last week is the Riverfront Arts District and the destination development there. So over the course of 10 years, the Tourism Development Authority has contributed $7.1 million in partnership with DOT, with the city and other partners. I think this is a perfect example of how when we have a vision and everyone's pulling in the same direction over time, that we can accomplish great things. So you've got greenways, sidewalks, bikeways, and pedestrian amenities. And the greenway that was just named after Wilma Dykeman, which is a great leader here in our community. One of the things that local leaders did here with the help of folks in the state capital of Raleigh was pivoting to repurpose some unallocated funds within the Tourism Product Development Fund towards a Tourism Jobs Recovery Fund. So there was a one-time emergency grant that was approved in Raleigh to allocate again $5 million in grant funding for local tourism-related small businesses. So over the course of the summer last year, 394 grants were awarded to individual businesses, and nearly 4,800 jobs were either retained, recovered, or created through this effort. I think this is really, again, a testament to the power of community. And when we worked with Mountain BizWorks, who helped us administer the fund, we did a survey at the end of 2020, and every single business responded to this survey. And I don't think anybody who's ever worked in research has had that 100% completion rate. And what we know from that is 98% of the businesses that received grant funding through this process are still operational today to be a part of the distinct destination that Asheville has with so many creators and makers. As my colleagues mentioned, it's been a rough year for sure. So when you look at, particularly for our hotel partners, so when you look at hotel room demand, you can see Buncombe County there in the middle of the pack. Our colleagues to the north in Virginia suffered more. As Barry mentioned, our partners to the west in Tennessee did not suffer quite as much. So again, relatively speaking to the rest of the country, we have a lot to be grateful for, but we also have a lot to build back. When we look at the total lodging occupancy picture, hotels here in Buncombe County were at a really healthy 73% year-round occupancy in the benchmark year of 2019. And that plummeted to just under 50% in 2020. The right-hand side of the page here gives a different picture, in that vacation rentals were at 59% of the benchmark year in 2019, but rose to 64% occupancy in 2020. So those people who were willing to travel during that time were certainly choosing different accommodations. And you can see that play out here. Now, with that said, and this is a terrible eye chart given that you're in presentation mode right alongside with me, so I apologize for that. But as I mentioned before, our occupancy tax is paid through hotels, through vacation rentals, as well as our bed and breakfast partners. And there was a local headline here that sort of made its way around that October of 2020 was the best year that we ever had. And that's a relative statement. So what we did see in October, which is the peak month that we have in every year, that our hotel partners were still down 8%, but our vacation rental partners were up 76% in revenue in October of last year. Now, that is good news because we have our local residents who are participating in the vacation rental market are benefiting financially from the return of visitors to our community. Bed and breakfast were up 5%, which means that our total revenue or collections for the month of October were up. But our hotel partners continue to lag behind, but there's some brightness ahead. But when we look at our latest lodging occupancy numbers, again, March of 2019 was that benchmark year of 74%, plummeted down to 38% in March of 2020, and have bounced back up to 57% in this year, but that's still down 23% over our benchmark year. Looking again on the right-hand side with vacation rentals, they did go down to 48% in March when there was the solid shutdown, but have bounced back to 65% in 2021, which is even further ahead than the benchmark year of 2019. Looking at employment, this chart is pretty interesting and tells a story here about why it's so important to support travel and tourism and the return of travel to our community. Is that over the last 10 years, Asheville's leisure and hospitality jobs have grown 36%. So if you look at that over the Asheville MSA overall, as if it weren't for tourism, Asheville would not be performing at the level of national US average. And if it weren't for travel and tourism, we'd be having a whole different conversation about our local economy. And second, no surprise, is that leisure and hospitality has been the hardest hit. So 1 in 4 jobs here were lost in our sector, and that is by far ahead of, and never do you want to be ahead in this category, but ahead of information, which is second at 16%. So when we look at the share of total employment loss by history, and this is back in February, so we are seeing some growth from here, is that 1 in 2 jobs were lost in travel and tourism. So it means for us to be whole and have a healthy overall economy here in Asheville, we have to have travel come back as part of our overall efforts. So Mary Quinn shared with you that 87% of American travelers have plans to hit the road or the skies between now and the end of the year, which is certainly heartening. I mean, that emotional benefit we get as travelers is something that so many people have been feeling and yearning for. And this just gives you a sense of when people are planning to travel. So we certainly saw a boom in April with family spring breaks coming on. And then as we see the peaks building, that 33% are planning trips in July. So those those jobs and getting our team members back into our hotels and restaurants and experience providers are really important to be able to provide the service delivery to help support and recovery. So for Asheville in particular, we worked with tourism economics over the last 10 years in measuring the impact of travel to our community. And we also worked with them on a forecast. So there's some strong considerations for recovery for our community and as also our colleagues on the call with us today. But all indicators are pointing to a strong leisure travel rebound. More than 90% of Asheville's travelers are coming for leisure or vacation. So that's going to help us drive recovery in the labor market if we can get those folks back into jobs and earning wages. The Asheville is a very strong domestic market. So when we look at those US travelers that would generally be going international, that's even more of an opportunity for us to capture hearts and minds of people and have them choose Asheville and Buncombe County this year. When we look on the group or B2B side of things, is that we have smaller or medium-sized event space, and those are the groups that we see coming back first versus the large convention hall, annual convention style groups. And because of our diversified lodging types with a strong vacation rental market, as well as our local hotel partners, we see that's going to help us grow as well. And then I think I saw in my on and off of trying to get back on that Lou from the Asheville Regional Airport Authority is on with us. And this certainly is a bright spot after so many challenging months, is that air service into Asheville will have the same number of direct service flights in June of this year as it did in just a gangbuster year of 2019. And just recently, Lou and his team announced a new nonstop service from Boston into Asheville that will start in the summer of next year. So all of that to say, where are we going next? And I've had the fortune of being here in Asheville since the first part of December, and the opportunity to listen to lots of different community leaders, political leaders, broad community and business leaders, as well as in travel and tourism, and have had the chance to sort of see what's bubbling up in diversity and inclusiveness, storytelling, putting people first, looking at balance. So again, that balance of visitors and residents, as well as including community. And when we look at at the tourism priorities within there, we want to be intentional about inviting more diverse audiences to Asheville. And when we do so, make sure that we're connecting those visitors to neighborhoods, businesses, entrepreneurs. So we're creating more opportunity for more people to win through tourism here. I mentioned that word balance. So that means, inviting visitors throughout our seasons here, looking at destination management and dispersal practices. So creating itineraries and experiences that deliver visitors throughout our community to help with congestion or challenges that come with more visitors. We want to prioritize overnight travel and increase length of stay, so that again, we're having the quality of visit from for the visitor, but the quality of visit for our community and the return on investment there. We want to include community and drive community good, and just continue to talk about and facilitate those shared benefits. And humanizing the tourism community and being a positive voice in our own destination. When we do have the chance to work with the success of travel and tourism, how do we work with our community partners to manage and mitigate environmental impacts? Because of the geographic makeup of Asheville, which is so special, We want to make sure that we're caring for those natural resources and human resources that are a part of why so many people travel to this part of the country. We want to think about managing our destination while growing tourism. And then particularly with our partners with the Chamber of Commerce on the line today is aligning our proactive group sales efforts with the economic development sectors that our partners have identified. So here that's advanced manufacturing, outdoor products, climate and environment, life sciences, and office technology, as you can follow along in my notes field. But that's with our sales team here as they're going out and pursuing corporations, organizations, incentive trips, executive retreats, and conferences. How do we align those efforts with our partners so that basically we're creating a prospect pool for our traditional economic development partners? Because if they still think about on the automobile side, the best way to sell a car is to have a test drive. And that's what travel and tourism is for our economic development partners. And then importantly, this will specifically be an eye chart for you in this format, so I apologize for that. But this is our effort in thinking about our broader community goals, and then what is tourism's role in that? Because by any tourism industry metric or standard, Asheville has been wildly successful. But I think as a tourism community, we have opportunity for growth and alignment within with our residents and with our business and community partners. So across the top, you have the Buncombe County and the City of Asheville strategic areas of focus. And out of that, we have aligned our own efforts and how we're going to be organizing tourism's role in our community and how we're going to be working with our community partners. And that is delivering balanced recovery and sustainable growth, and balance in all the definitions that I just shared with you. Encouraging safe and responsible travel. So right now, safety is still a concern for those people who are helping in service delivery with all of our tourism partners and businesses, as well as visitors themselves. But right behind that is responsible travel, which how do we care for and respect the natural resources? How do we engage and invite visitors and businesses that have those shared values and partner with like-minded brands there? How do we engage and invite more diverse audiences? And again, connecting those audiences to our community to have more opportunity for winning. And last, but certainly not least, is to promote and support Asheville's creative spirit. Is that there are so many creators and makers who have been a part of crafting this community into a very distinct destination. And we want to ensure that we're bringing light to those voices as we're sharing Asheville's story, and also through our grant making, through our product development fund. So I hope that gives you a bit of a feel for where we're headed here at Explore Asheville and how we're partnering with the community. And again, just want to thank you for your time and apologize for the presentation mode, but happy to turn it back over to Kit.
Thanks, Vic. I appreciate it. I'd like Barry and Mary Quinn, if y'all will take yourselves back on with video, and off of mute. That would be great. I appreciate all of you presenting. So we're 3 cities in the South. And it strikes me that, I mean, Barry, it seems like y'all advertised all the way through the pandemic. I mean, you were talking about protecting those advertising dollars. Yeah. And I know here in Asheville, we were talking about when to resume advertising, but very much changed the message. Did y'all change the message a great deal, Barry? And did y'all, and Mary Quinn, I'm gonna have the same question of you.
Well, certainly we, during the shutdown and actually, I guess it was the day that shutdown was announced or just before that, we stopped all of our marketing and advertising. We started coming back in just very slowly in the summer and then kind of full on for the fall. But yeah, just again, a safety message, just one that was again trying to instill confidence in the traveler. we're a familiar destination, and we were just trying to, try to draw those people who had been here kind of returning. And we also then explored a little bit on diversifying our audience within those target markets.
Yeah, we did. We had people express some anxiety about when to resume advertising. Mary Quinn, did y'all face that?
Absolutely. Much like Barry, I would say last summer we began dipping our toe into a re-engaged marketing effort. But for us, our budget was basically slashed in half. And there was, it was really for us a decision about prioritizing our people and trying to keep as many people employed as we could. And so without a doubt, our marketing has suffered in terms of the spend. That being said, things are looking better, and we will be replenishing those marketing dollars just as fast as we possibly can. And our messaging is evolving. It was very much on outdoor spaces and safety, sort of health and wellness protocols last fall. And I think that will still be present, but I just don't think it will be the hook that it has been over these last several months moving forward. We still want to invite people to enjoy, our signature industries and those outdoor spaces, but probably won't be leading with that as much as we move into this summer and the fall.
Vic, how did Asheville's change in terms of advertising?
In terms of paid advertising, the team paused, right at the end of March, and we're looking at several metrics to say when it was appropriate to come back into market. Dipped the toe in a couple of times and came right back out. So we certainly kept our own channels and PR efforts on throughout the time and worked on the safety message, safety for you, safety for our community. And we started back in the market and paid advertising in a rolling approach starting in April. And then with our partners at the airport, with some of those nonstop flights coming back in the markets, we've just started in the last week some very targeted approaches in those markets. And then also thinking about some of those strategies and pillars so that the creative execution we're in the market with is about lengthening the stay, which is, this town is definitely worth more than 1.5 or 1.8 nights. And really encouraging through itinerary development, and Facebook carousels and email marketing, the 4-day trip here and what that should really look like.
All right, so briefly tell me total budget for your organization. Vic, total budget.
Well, again, ours is split, right? So it's looking like it will be between 25 and 27 million all in for both marketing as well as product development next year. And I have a finance committee this afternoon to
oh joy, one of our favorite things.
Vic,
budget.
Can I ask Vic what portion of that is product development?
So currently, by state legislation, we're 75% marketing and 25% to product development.
So you're going to make me do the math.
Yes.
So it's about 18 million to marketing.
That's right. Great.
Okay, Mary,
I'll do it for you.
Budget.
Thanks, Vic.
We submitted for fiscal year 22 a budget of $6 million.
Okay. All right, and Barry, what about you?
In a normal year, we would be at about $10 million. Last year, we were about 7.5 million.
Wow. There's some differences there. And differences in size of community as well. I was looking at populations, and I'm not sure everybody mentioned them. Barry, yours was?
375.
And Mary Quinn?
We are at 330.
And Vic?
So you can probably tell better than I can, Kit, yeah. But we're coming up. We're aspiring to the close to 500,000.
Yeah, and actually in the MSA, we hope to be at 500,000, but that's a 4-county area. Yeah. So but isn't it interesting those variations there? How much are y'all seeing and a return of weekday travel, business travel at this point?
So we're currently looking at occupancy from Smith Travel, is that our weekend business, so largely leisure driven, is in the 80%, so low 80s, high 80s, Friday, Saturday. And then we're high 50s, low 60s weekday. And that really is where we see the opportunity and the alignment in our economic development partners, where we think we can make such a long-term difference for our community.
Barry, what about y'all?
I think we were just at a trickle. I think we're starting to be some consistent, maybe a slow flow coming back in. Mm-hmm. But I think that business traveler is still kind of an unknown to how much companies are going to continue investing in that, and we hope that they do, because they're more than just bread and butter to both airline and hotels and restaurants.
Mary Quinn, what are y'all seeing?
Very similar, just beginning to see the business traveler come back in. And it is an important segment to us, but the one that we have the least amount of control over. And so early week is still extremely light throughout the city.
Yeah, I think there are still liability issues that big companies in particular are thinking about before they institute new travel rules for their staff. So it's going to be interesting to monitor that as we get more people vaccinated and we get back to a new version of normal. Folks, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep asking them. and some of you may have answered these to a degree already. So this year was not only a pandemic year, but there was a whole lot of conversation about racial justice. And I'm interested in knowing if your messaging has changed. Has there been any change with regard to how you handle advertising, messaging, or anything related to what happened last summer?
Yeah, for us, in our strategic pillars, hopefully you saw that come through, that in not only inviting and engaging more diverse audiences to come to our community and be a part of our community, but extending a genuine invitation. So that means in terms of the visual assets we're using, the mediums that we're using to advertise in, the influencers or media that we're inviting. And then importantly, how do we connect community? So through the Product Development Fund, the YMI Cultural Center, which was built by Black hands that built much of Biltmore, and is in our downtown area, is part of our commitment to product development and reinvestment in the community. And then working with partners to create the African American Heritage Trail Project. And then also talking about not just creating the trail, but then how might there be business opportunities for entrepreneurs along that trail? So creating purposeful connections there. And we have a lot of work to do on that front, but we're committed to doing it.
Great. What about you guys, Barry?
Yeah, we definitely, as we were working on our new creative, and I mentioned when we did start with our paid advertising in our key markets, we diversified our messaging, and a little bit through paid, definitely through kind of our social and other avenues, trying to again speak and invite specifically to a more diverse audience. Mm-hmm. And that's something we'll obviously continue. I mean, that's
right. It does take time. I mean, it's a journey. Mary Quinn, what about you? Any thoughts?
Sure. So I would say that actually prior to the summer of racial reckoning, we had already at Visit Lex realized that we needed to be doing more, and had probably had about 18 months worth of effort in motion. Many of it, I mean, much of that effort, I guess at this point had been grassroots and really connecting with different pockets of the community that we just needed to get to know better and we needed to work closer together with. Fabulous partnerships with Black farmers and a lot of conversations with our LGBTQ community. I mean, just working to understand the distinctive neighborhoods and the distinctive pockets that make the city an interesting place to be. Given our proximity to Louisville and the Breonna Taylor case, it was front and center every single day for us last summer. And of course, we have committed to doing more. We actually committed 15% of our shelf space in our visitor center to Black-owned business retail. And we are selling that as a way to try and do our part, not just in words, but also in dollars. And have several initiatives afoot, and also expanding the sort of intentional focus and invitation to that audience as we look to spend marketing dollars in the fall.
Great. Well, I'm interested in, and is everybody having the same workforce challenge that we're having here in Asheville? Tell me, what are your bright ideas about how to address the workforce challenge? And don't everybody all jump in at once. It's such a simple issue.
Yeah.
Barry, you want to take it away?
Well, and I don't know that any of us have that silver bullet that's going to solve that right now. But again, we just kind of launched. I mentioned it briefly. We've launched a career section on our website. We're interested in partnering with our chamber and trying to get the word out. But we've started posting those jobs online. We've done outreach to our community partners, our hospitality and tourism partners. And so we have quite a few jobs listed on there. And I think, one of the benefits is when you look at the jobs that are offered, it's servers and it's hotel staff and it's others, but we're also seeing some very interesting jobs out there, like a zookeeper, like a hang glider, a ultralight pilot that pulls the hang gliders up and those types of things. So there's, between our aquarium and these other things that we have, there's some, very unique and different jobs. And I think that the benefit of that messaging will also say, look, there are some cool jobs. They're great opportunity when you get in at a ground level in a hospitality or a dining or a hotel. Growth is fast, and it's just allowing us to kind of really, we want pushing that story out that these are good jobs. I mean, I started bussing tables in a restaurant, back when, and it's you learn a lot of skills and a lot of just responsibility when you get into those first jobs, and there's a lot of room for growth.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we have to do on behalf of our travel and tourism community. I mean, Roger Dow has said for years that, travel and tourism has been the Rodney Dangerfield of industries or sectors. We get no respect. But they've done some really ground covering research for us, which is, if you start your career in travel and tourism, no matter whether you stay in travel and tourism or you move on to manufacturing or healthcare, you earn more over your career span if you started in travel and tourism, because you have those soft skills that Barry mentioned. I mean, I waited tables after I worked on a farm. And so you carry those skills with you, and it is a great career over your span. It's a great career to start. It's a great career to re-enter the workforce for many women in the world. And I think that all of us are thinking through, I don't know of any city in the United States that has not faced homelessness issues with its resident population. And how do we work with that? Those are human beings, and how do we work on collectively on trying to build a pathway that is sensitive and aspirational and hopeful to help them get the assistance that they need, but also, to be human and to be successful at that. And that to me, like I talked about the first part of my talk, is that how do we focus on the human connections, and that's the power of travel to me.
Mary Quinn, anything to add?
Both very well spoken on behalf of my colleagues. The only thing I would add is that we are actively working with the higher education institutions in the region, because it is a fantastic pipeline for us and provides an opportunity for us to put this invitation. As Vic mentioned, I was in the same boat. I didn't know I could do this when I grew up. And we'd love to start getting to people as an industry much younger than, I was well into my late 20s before I even thought about doing something in hospitality. And so if we get the opportunity to inspire younger minds, I think we all win in the long run in terms of that workforce pipeline issue.
Well, I know, Mary Quinn, we've had conversation about advocacy. You mentioned it and during your commentary. And this year has been an interesting one, and there's been lots of communication that we've had to have with elected officials at all levels. Tell us what you've been working on.
Specifically in Kentucky. Well, I think, probably the single biggest example of advocacy for those of us in Kentucky is when the CARES Act originally came out, a little over a year ago. I think by virtue of no real ill intent, all of the DMOs, all the tourism offices in Kentucky were deemed ineligible to receive any kind of funding because of our quasi-governmental status. And as you saw in my figures, our budget was devastated very quickly. And we're kind of looking down, looking at future forward, thinking we don't know when we're going to come out of this. And it's so frustrating to us that we cannot advocate. We can't access this PPP money that everyone is talking about being so fantastic and being a lifeline. So we really doubled down our efforts. At that point in the country, we had the Senate Majority Leader representing the state of Kentucky. So we worked very closely with Senator McConnell. We also worked really closely with the congressman from our district here in Central Kentucky. And I'm very pleased to say, I do not think it would have happened. And it wasn't just Kentucky. There were several southern DMOs that were in the same quasi-governmental status. And I don't think it would have happened had we not been just absolutely relentless in advocating that we deserved to be eligible just as much as any other business. One of the messages that we took as a part of that effort to Congress was that we are really doing the heavy lifting. If you want these hotels and these restaurants and these attractions to be back and to survive and to thrive on the other side of this pandemic, we're really the front door of all that. And we are in a position to really impact the community in a positive way by virtue of what we do at the tourism office. And so for me, that was a great effort that thankfully saw a very positive outcome. And so, as you know, there's a lot of guidance that's due very shortly from the ARPA funds that were allocated at the end of this March. Those of us in the tourism hospitality space are very eager for that guidance because thankfully, there was some pretty clear language included in this federal relief package that said you really need to prioritize hospitality, recreation, tourism businesses because we know those have been the hardest hit. And so for me, I've just tried to relate that story. I've realized that it can get overwhelming to just throw facts and figures. So I've really tried to connect those stories and the people, the men and women who make their livelihoods and who put food on the table for their kids and connecting those faces to the ask. And so we'll be anxious to see what that guidance looks like next week.
Yeah, Barry, what about you on the advocacy front? Where have you had to focus?
Yeah, we about 2 years ago it's one of our strategic pillars, one of 5 strategic pillars for our organization is community relations and advocacy. And we're really started ramping up on that. And I think that our messaging is really about the community. And I think it's never been more evident than it was last year of what happens when we as residents don't have access to our own culture and dining options and experiences that we have. And people travel to see the culture of Asheville. They travel to see Lexington's culture. They travel to experience what we have in our own communities. And so the two are not separate as far as a place to live and to visit and a place to be that first stop when an industry somebody comes in to consider relocating an industry to your community, but it's all intertwined, and we're codependent on each other. We're dependent on the community and the culture. And so I think it's just, making sure that, we're just getting that message out and saying, without these visitors coming in and bringing you money, we would not have the restaurant options. We would not enjoy as residents the culture that we experience today. And that's just like Mary Quinn said, that's going to be a constant from here on out. It should have been, a long time ago. We've kind of, we sometimes we're our own worst enemies, and because we're preaching to people outside our community to come here, we haven't been, speaking enough with our internal partners. And so, yeah, it's here to stay, and we've got to do better jobs at it.
Yep, I get that. Vic, you arrived in December, so you missed some of the early conversation around advocacy in Asheville. But what have you been focused on since you've arrived?
Like I said before, I think, the word of the year, if you believe in Sesame Street, the word of the year for Asheville is balance. And as we build back travel that has been, let's face it, from virtually the dawn of time, people have been attracted to this part of the country because of its natural resources, and creators and makers have been drawn here to be a part of a really distinct community. And so how do we know, we know that growth is going to continue. I mean, we were talking a bit, we didn't get to it today, but about the real estate market and how people, because those corporate travelers, now just because business travel isn't happening doesn't mean those corporate travelers aren't traveling. They're just traveling as their families, or as a couple, or they're residing here for 6 months and still working for their company that's based in San Francisco or New York. But that growth is going to continue to come. So how do we work collaboratively about a shared vision of success where more people can win? And if we understand those rules, then we can understand how we work together. And I think that's the balance part for me, as entering into a new community during this interesting time, is I do see opportunity, and I see opportunity for more people to win. And that to me is where our focus will be. Because particularly with Mary Quinn or Barry, myself, and even our chamber colleagues, we don't do anything by ourselves.
Right.
We have to do it together with our communities. And I think that's just, this is born true.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really interesting. I wish we had more time to talk about short-term rentals and its impact on, in so many cases, lots of people balance their budgets through short-term rentals, but it also then means that there are fewer places to live in a community, and how you provide that balance, especially in a market like Asheville, where people have been buying houses sight unseen. I don't know if that's happening in Chattanooga and in Lexington, but it has been a crazy real estate market, lots of appreciation in property values. We've got 4 minutes. I want you to think about this while I am giving a little pitch for our future topics for this virtual intercity visit. I want you to think about what makes you hopeful and be prepared to share that. While I mentioned that next week on Wednesday, May 12th, we're going to have the topic of workforce development, which is not just on the minds of our hospitality and tourism friends, but every sector of industry is talking about workforce development. We're going to be talking about innovative methods for growing our talent pipeline in an equitable manner. So it's got the combination of this workforce issue with this diversity, equity, and inclusion issue. So it should be very interesting. We hope you'll join us for that. So in the remaining 3 minutes that we have, Vic, what makes you hopeful about the future?
Humans. To me, that is really what this comes down to over the past year, is that so many of us in travel and tourism have gotten so hung up on numbers and figures. And when you really boil it down, what the travel experience is what I'll speak for myself. What I get as a human and also that that interaction with people in places. And the economic benefit is the bonus. But right. I think what we're facing in workforce, what we're facing, and we've all been missing this past year and being able to explore, is that human connection. So that is what keeps me up at night and, you know, gets me up in the morning, not all the other BS over here.
Good. Mary Quinn, what makes you hopeful?
Well, I have a very similar response, but I'll put a different spin on it so I don't look like a copycat. I will say hugs, because I got to hug my 93-year-old grandmother for the first time in 14 months, very, very recently. And it was absolutely magical, truly. And so I am just so impressed with the resolve and the goodwill and the perseverance that so many people have displayed over this last year. It's hard to be anything but hopeful. And that is coming from the mouth of someone who's had many a hair-pulling, tear-jerking night trying to figure out how we're going to get through this mess. But there's just so many positive stories, so much good to go around. And like I said, hugs.
Great. Barry, what about you? What makes you hopeful?
Yeah, that's interesting, Mary Quinn, because I spoke at a chamber event a couple of weeks ago, and they asked what you missed, what we missed most, and hugs was one of mine. And there are things like that that we, you know, it's going to come back, and we're going to appreciate those more. I think at least for a while. I'm also very hopeful that we take the past 12 or 14 months, and I'm very hopeful that we will find and identify things, and we may just stumble across them, but there will be benefits from the past 12 to 14 months that we may not recognize right now. There will be some that we want to continue and to capitalize on. But I think there are some things that if we really take a deep look into ourselves as people and as humans, that we will see some benefits that we aren't anticipating, and we're all going to be better off for that. And that's what we need to look at, is what are those ways that we can position ourselves and spot those things and those opportunities that then we can be better as a society and as people.
Well, I appreciate all three of you to a very high degree to be our guinea pigs on this exercise. Looking forward to the next two, and hope that our audience will join us. And thank you very much. This new collaboration, another silver lining of a really tough situation in the last year. But thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to everybody for being here. Y'all have a great day. Be safe. Get your shot. All that good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.